The return of Jesus. It's been 2,000 years. And the sound of the trumpet? Is that when he returns? And what's the trumpet all about in the first place? And then there's the gathering of Christians in what's called the rapture. When exactly does that happen? At the sound of the trumpet, if in fact that's the timing? And then there's his return on a white horse mentioned at the end of Revelation. In fact, everyone returning with him is on a white horse. And is that us, or angels, or both? Following that, there's the event called the tribulation. When exactly does that happen? And how is that tied to the so-called rapture? There are various camps on that discussion. Many believe that everyone will be taken away before all the trouble begins, the pre-tribulation folks. And then there are those who subscribe that it occurs in the middle of it all. And finally, others who are convinced it will be at the end. And to top it all off, just to round out the discussion, most everyone even vaguely familiar with the Bible will immediately inform you of Jesus' statement, "No one knows." For those of you who are not familiar with all these various theological positions, I'm not meaning to be dismissive. These are serious students and scholars of Scripture, and each have their opinions based on reasonable references from the Bible. But let's face the statistical facts of the matter. Let's assume a fairly even distribution of opinions. That means that 2/3 of all Christendom is absolutely wrong, these opinions being mutually exclusive of one another. Of course, there's always a fourth option. There will be no such event. But there's more. How about all the completely errant predictions that have been made over the last 2 centuries? Let's see. We've got the Millerite movement led by William Miller predicting Christ's return scheduled for October 22nd, 1844. That didn't happen and was labeled the Great Disappointment. Then there are the multiple Jehovah's Witnesses predictions founded by Charles Taze Russell, notably the predictions of 1914, 1925, and 1975, none of which materialized. Next up to bat, Shoko Asahara. This bright Japanese occult leader claimed to be the reincarnation of Christ, predicting an apocalypse to begin in 1995. When that didn't happen, he planned and executed the infamous sarin gas attack on a Japan subway that killed 13 people and injured thousands more. Now, there's a real messiah for you. And then there was Harold Camping, a Christian radio host and founder of Family Radio, who predicted that the end of the world was scheduled for May 21st, 2011, and later revised it to October of that year. Scheduling the end of the world can be pretty tough. And while we're on the subject of getting it wrong, how about Satan and the Antichrist and all the guesswork over the past 2,000 years? Who doesn't know Nero? His name, when transliterated into Hebrew or Greek, could be calculated to the infamous number 666. Let's leap forward to the Middle Ages with Pope Gregory VII in the 11th century, being the Antichrist due to his, let's call them, assertive claims of papal authority. Skipping to the 19th century, we have Napoleon Bonaparte. At least we're getting colorful, but now it gets more macabre in the 20th century. With Mussolini and, of course, Hitler and the Holocaust. With the devastation of a world war and the heinous murder of millions of God's chosen people, certainly Hitler qualifies as the Antichrist. But no, not yet. We finish off with the ridiculous. Of course, it had to be the internationally influential Henry Kissinger in the 70s. After all, he was German-born and Jewish, with a relatively unintelligible yet charming accent. But let's not stop there. How about Gorbachev? My goodness, he was leader of the land of Gog and Magog from the north. And on top of that, he had a mark on the top of his head, a beastly prefiguration of things to come. And what does all this add up to? Circling right back to the eventual fallback, no one knows. So if you or anyone else ever begins to make any sort of assertion that we're probably close to Jesus' return, what do you get? Wolves, that's right. Cry wolf. And where does that leave us? Questions, and lots of them. Not only that, we find ourselves having to weave through the complexity of a myriad of contradictory views and opinions. So how do we unravel this ball of string? I suggest we first take a breath, then it depends on your experience at this point. This whole topic of the end times and Christ's return has a fancy million-dollar label, eschatology. For those who are new, we need to understand how we got here. When did all these different views develop? After that, we need to cover some basics in identifying and understanding all the various images that are found in prophetic verses throughout the Bible. For those who are already well-versed on these topics, you can skip to video 3, Christ Returning, Texts We Will Use. But you might want to view the second video anyhow, as there may be some items you've never seen. Either way, Shalom, and see you in the next video.